Okay, so you and I have been working together since basically the new year.
Yes.
So 8 weeks. And you've done quite a bit of work around, binge eating, emotional eating, and all that.
Mhm.
So your birthday was yesterday, and you were just saying surprisingly, it was super easy. You didn't overeat or anything.
No, right.
Did you get birthday cake?
Yes. I had birthday cake. I had my cake, and I ate. I ate just what I wanted to eat, which was not even a full piece. I just ate until I just felt satisfied. That's it.
And
And
was it surprising?
I was, yeah, I was surprised, surprised because didn't I feel like, oh, this is the only time I eat birthday cake. I need to eat as much as I can and just stuff it in myself.
Hmm.
And and just eat, just eat until you can eat no more. And I was like, no, like I'm done. Like, and I don't care if the rest of it goes in the trash.
Yeah, don't you agree that has a lot to do with the fact that first you didn't demonize it, second you never said I can only have a bite or a piece.
Yes.
There was no limit.
Mm-hmm.
You went into that, sounds like you went into that birthday cake um kind of open-minded around I'm going to eat until I'm satisfied. I'm not going to worry
Mm-hmm.
about it. I'm not going to negotiate with it. I'm just going to do it and we'll see what happens. And
Yeah, that's
also,
exactly it.
don't you agree too? It's not just that on the front end, it's also knowing in the back end of that, I can have this again later. I can have birthday cake for the rest of my life. I can have it this week. I can have the same piece later today. So
Mm-hmm.
that feeling of I'm doing something wrong, I shouldn't be eating this, I've ruined it, it's going away.
Yes, completely. Yeah, I agree with that.
It just takes the pressure out of that and the impulsiveness out of eating cake.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Isn't it great?
It just, oh my gosh, yes. It takes the pressure. I mean, just making the daily decisions about food because before all binging, all you think about is food every day, every minute of your life. Okay, what am I going to eat next?
Hmm.
And how much of it am I going to eat next? Because I don't know when I'm going to get it again. And it was really weird because my day just was about being around the people that I wanted to be around. It's more
Hmm.
about the experience and not about what food am I going to have.
Yeah, I remember when
And
we talked last week, you had said, "Oh, this is going to be interesting. My birthday's coming
yeah,
up. This is going to be a challenge."
uh,
Do you just recall too, like from previous birthdays, that it was always hard on you or a binge day, or?
uh, it was always hard because I'm always so usually spend like do like a birthday dinner or with my family, and I'm always judged by my family what I eat, how much I'm eating, etc. So that was always very much a pressure day as well.
Hmm.
And because it's my birthday, watching how much cake I'm eating and how much of the food I'm eating, because usually what I would want is like, okay, some type of fast food that I like to eat, or like my favorite pizza. We get pizza from my favorite pizza place, or Chinese food from my favorite Chinese place,
Yeah, it was.
and
It sounds like it maybe have been a day that was exciting and free, but also brought a lot of anxiety and stress,
yes,
and maybe like it
mm-hmm,
might have brought you the same type of pressure. It's like, sure, I can have my full day of excitement that I want, freedom to eat these foods
mm-hmm,
and not and feel that it is
right, right,
justified, but that leaves me with
mm-hmm,
all of this angst around the weight gain.
right, exactly. And it was, and because when I would binge, I wouldn't ever binge on fast food. I wouldn't ever binge on like my favorite pizza place. It would just be food I'd go to the grocery store and I'd be able to get more easy. I don't know why I would say more easily, but I guess it's just for me that was just easier, just to go to the grocery store and buy what I want instead of going to fast food place. So I never really binged on fast food or on my favorite foods, like other than that. Other just
Hmm.
favorite foods just from the grocery store. So
Hmm.
to me, my birthday was okay. Get your favorite fast food,
Got it.
and
Like that
so
was your
yeah,
luxury temptation.
yes,
It
yeah.
sounds like
Thank
what
you.
you
That's a
might
good
have
way to
done
put
in
it.
the,
Yeah.
yeah, it sounds like what you may have done, and I could be wrong, but you might have
Mm-hmm.
eliminated fast food from option because you felt it was too easy as an addictive food.
Oh,
That might
yeah,
have
that might
come
be.
from previous people helping you with your addiction with food, saying just stay away from fast food. Don't even make it an option. If you go into the grocery
Yeah.
store, you're not going to be able to. You have to make what it is. You're going to just flipping nuts. But that might have been it. Why you were
Yeah.
avoiding that, because it's just too tempting. So
Yeah.
yet
But
again, just another restriction from the Church of Food Righteousness. Fast
yes.
food is so
And,
bad for you.
Right. Yes. But I mean, I listened to my body, and that's all I did. And so, like, I went out. My favorite food is breakfast, so I went out for breakfast with my mom, just got an omelet, and I was satisfied up until we ate around 2 o'clock. And my mom's like, "Well, what do you want to eat?" And I listened to my body, and I'm like, "I just want a salad." I just want a really good salad with avocados and black olives, and cause they usually won't make those types of salads. I come from an Italian family, so they put a lot of olive oil and vinegar in there, and I can't eat their salads because all it is like I don't like regular iceberg lettuce. So I'm like, you know what? We're gonna go to sport. I'm gonna pick out the salad I want. And so I'm like, and it was weird. I just listened to my body and what my body wanted and what I want to eat in that moment instead of being, okay, what fast food can I get that I'm not going to have for until next year again? Or, it was amazing. It was an amazing experience to have that, to be able to just listen to myself and not, I don't even know how to explain it, because it was euphoric. It was euphoric in the moment because I was like, holy cow. This is 1,000 times easier than I thought it could, that I thought it would be.
Yes, and that's what I had said before I decided let's record this, was when you have the label of a binge eater or a binge eating disorder or food addiction, when you've been labeled by people who don't really get it, when you feel this is intense, the amount of work I have to do to stay away from fast food, to go through only certain aisles, to micromanage the sugar-free, all of what they recommend you do, right? It's a lot of work, and it really is obsessive compulsive. And based on the way they tell you to recover, you will struggle for the rest of your life. Can you see that now? Like the way they approach these issues sets you up to never recover.
Right.
Because you're not supposed to eat these foods that are addictive or highly palatable, right? That you need to control your food. You need to eat on a regular schedule, timed, and you have to eat this, always eat these, highly dense, nutritious foods, because that's why you're binging. You're not nutritionally satisfied. All that weird stuff that has nothing to do with how you're emotionally feeling, especially about body image, right?
Right.
So when you're inside of that drama and chaos, I know for me, when I was inside of it, it was so intense that I could only fathom that the recovery process must be equally intense. That whatever it's going to take for me to recover is working with this insane pressure and intensity and obsession with food. It must be equally oppositely obsessive, anti-food, right?
Right.
And that's because you're stuck looking at the consequence of the eating behavior. When all you look at is the eating behavior, you're stuck with that resolution, with that equal opposite resolution that feels so intense. When you go to the root of the problem, which is your issues with body image and your issues around feeling lovable inside, when you go down to that shame with who you are, going into the details of embarrassed with your family, embarrassed, feeling like you're inadequate because you're overweight, go into those actual emotions that make you feel like you need to go and do something about it. We go there when we don't do anything about it, and we allow yourself to stay where you're at physically, all of a sudden these issues with food are very naturally relieved. It's the most bizarre, shocking experience for everybody I work with.
Yeah.
Even if they eat, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and even I could have asked, and gotten pizza yesterday, and that would have been what I wanted. That's not what I actually wanted, but if that's what my body wanted, if that's exactly what I wanted in that moment, I honestly, that anxiety was gone. Even if I ate pizza and not the salad, like if the anxiety was gone yesterday, even on the food and being with my family, which is really that I've honestly never experienced.
That's exciting. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're realizing that a lot of the impulses that you were having had nothing to do with what your body was wanting. It had to do with that psychological want, that the forbidden fruit kind of effect. Like you're going to want what you can't have or what you feel is going away. Again, that's that primal response to feast before famine. If there's going to be a famine of something, the feeling of, oh, I'm going to feel the illusion really of I'm going to feel deprived or I'm going to miss that. You're emotionalizing that food.
Yes.
And that's what's creating the desire for it. It has nothing to do with the food. It has to do with that victim position that every single client of mine has. That for me, I'm going to feel bad. I'm going to feel deprived. I'm going to feel like I can't eat anymore. I'm going to feel that loss, that lacking. That's at the real heart of this, that my life is lacking. My relationships are lacking. If I can't eat that food, I'm lacking. That's what's creating the drive.
Yeah. Okay.
Towards pizza, right? I'm not gonna be able to get the pizza, So anyway, so you give yourself the pizza, and you're like, doesn't even sound good in this moment. I'll eat it because it's what I've done. It's my habit. It's my conditioning based on years of depriving pizza. You get there, and you're like, Same with maybe the cake. It doesn't mean that that's going to be that way all the time. There may be days where you're like, oh my God, pizza is just like, yes, my mouth really is telling me that salty, peppery, citrus from the tomato, the cheesy, there's something about it. I'm totally going for pizza. You may have a stronger feeling on a different day, but it's not coming from that lacking position or feeling deserved. I earned it. It's my birthday. You're not emotionalizing the impulse to do it.
Right.
Which is really how people with this type of dieting mentality, they live in that type of fixation. Now you have rest from that, and can you believe how easy this is? It's like, oh my God. And something like a birthday for you makes the comparison of where you're at now to where you were just 8 weeks ago so relevant. Like you can feel the difference.
Yes, I can completely feel the difference. And because honestly, last time we talked, I was really kind of scared going into my birthday, thinking how awful it was going to be, filled with anxiety and food.
Well, don't you agree that you kind of have to have these type of triggers? And I remember talking to you about this. Like it takes stuff like this for people to know where they're at. It's so easy to feel recovered in the safety of your home and not having to go out and not going on dates or not even, not being exposed to the family members that judge or ridicule their body. It's so easy to say, oh, I'm so much better when you're in a vacuum or isolated from reality. So a birthday for you was a real reality check around how am I going to respond? Am I going to feel the same way? And some of that stress is okay because you haven't done this yet. You haven't had that comparative marker between how you responded to challenge before and how you respond to challenge now with the work that we've done. And the thing is this, the work that you and I have done, we've done nothing in regards to food except for eat when you're hungry, listen to your body. We don't, because to me the food is not the problem, it's the consequence. So if we go into the problem, which is really body image, self-image, your tribal issues, right? We go there, we work on that. That's where our focus has been. All of a sudden, you're thrown into a food environment, and you're like, "Holy shit! I don't know what's going to happen." And what has happened? We have been speaking. I think this is like our 6th or 7th session. I don't know. 7 hours of work. Let me look at my calendar, and I'll tell you where we're at. This is our 7th hour. Besides 7 hours of talking about body image. About family, about your perceptions of yourself, about loving yourself even if you're larger, even if you get bigger, right? about, coming out of the closet and going into the shame or into the embarrassment of being like, oh, I wanted to be thinner and I'm not letting go of the fantasy. If you look at the last 7 hours of work that we've done, how much of it have we actually talked about food? Maybe 5%? I don't even know if we talked about it that much.
Not even that much, yeah.
It may be the conversations around it may be dismantling, discrediting the diet industry because they're so biased and driven to control your food consumption. A lot of people say, well, what about my health? And sometimes I don't even address that. I'll be like, that is a lie. You need to move on. That's not true. Let's just assume, or go into your unhealth. Yeah, let's just say you're going to get diabetes and then comparing the suffering to the physicality, right? So that's the extent of the conversations about food. So the other part of this is how, and again, this isn't my first rodeo helping someone. So you're normal. What you're experiencing is what I've seen for years now, where people are like, I can't even believe how easy that food environment was, where before it would have been torture. It would have been defining my issues with food. It was so defining. So now it's like, I don't even care. It's like I'm tasting the food and I'm like, it's so not center stage anymore. Like it's there, you're tasting it, you're observing it, but that feeling of I can't stop, I have to hide, I'm feeling bad, the pressure of it just snowballing into a day of just total destruction physically doesn't even enter. Anyway, so yeah, I think that's important for you to see too, that really your issues had nothing to do with food. Your issues with food were your consequence.
Yes, that's true.
And so how easy food is going into the root of the problem. All of a sudden, something that was so front and center is backstage now. It's amazing. It's actually miraculous to me. Still, after recovering myself, not understanding how the hell my issues disappeared like this, but the other thing was just being able to watch other people go through the same exact recovery, maybe not so quickly, but the process of recovery going through, don't even look at food, don't worry about your binging. That to me is normal. It's something that you should be doing based on evolutionary psychology. Don't feel bad. Anybody else would do the same thing under the same circumstance. Forgive yourself for it. Do you see that now too? Like, no wonder.
Oh yeah, totally.
It's amazing. So, coming from this standpoint too, and the other thing is we've been talking about the protocol, which again is like can throw people back into, well, I'm going to go on the protocol, so I might as well just eat all I want today on my birthday, and that didn't happen either.
No.
Yet another test.
And that's what I was scared about too. I was scared about relapsing on my birthday, and no, didn't happen.
Yeah, that's an awesome indication. That's a real testament of your detachment from body image, really.
Yeah.
Because if, for example, let's make a comparison. If you had decided, or if you were attaching to the weight loss part of this foreseen future protocol, if you were attaching to the thinness of that, the euphoria of losing the weight, the euphoria of maybe my clothes will be smaller, I'm going to get the best of all of this, I'm going to be thin and hot, and I'm going to be free from these eating issues, which doesn't work that way.
Right.
Because if you think you're going to be thin and hot, you're not going to recover, right? You're going to relapse. So we've put that carrot, we've given you something that could have created that fantasy again. And the fact that you're not impulsively eating right now tells me that you're not buying into that fantasy. Like you literally would rather stay fat. Meaning there is no power or magic in thinking about being thinner anymore. The magic part of that is the hardest part in terms of recovery. So many people who've gone through what you've been through, they feel immediate release. They feel this freedom from binging, but there's still that magic around, ooh, I could lose some weight and be free from binging, which means it'll be easy to maintain, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, and I agree that I think that was the hardest part, just accepting your body for what it is. And for me, that's what it was as well. It was I had to go. You had to go through, some emotional loss in a way. Of losing that fantasy, which was, but I'm so glad that I lost that fantasy because now I can actually see, what is real.
It was an illusion. That what you just said is so true.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I grieved that, because on the other side of that grief and letting it go, which is not easy, is the actual, you can see the fantasy. It's a fantasy. It's not real. That's an illusion. It's not even truth. It's not in reality. You're in some alternative ideal fantasizing, which is keeping you in your lower survival space.
Right.
So you accept what you have, and you accept judgment. You go through that third hierarchy of need in terms of like, you're okay with judgment, rejection, abandonment, disapproval. You go through those triggering emotions that are very primal, and you desensitize yourself. That's essentially kind of what you've done too, is you've desensitized your sensitivity to fear of people's judgment. By being okay, by saying I would rather be judged. It's that comparison between fear of judgment, fear of embarrassment, fear of exposure, comparing that to the hardship of living in your escape mechanisms from these, right?
Right.
You realize your escape mechanisms are far worse, far horrendous, far more psychologically damaging than the psychological idea that you'll be damaged if someone judges you. And you go into this going, I'm going to go into judgment. It's not as damaging. Right? And you go through that and you reconcile. It's almost like, again, it's a form of kind of rewiring that fight or flight response and sensitivity. It's incredible because you don't really, the way I'm talking about it, this is not how it goes through in your head.
No.
Right?
Oh
what
God,
you
no.
experience is not the logic of all this. It's the sadness. It's the feelings of like loss and a failure. Like it has failed. It's like the aftermath of a failed war. The damage that's been done, and you're done fighting. So there is that relief from I'm done fighting, but there is the sadness of the loss. But on the other side is that I am now free. And you go through all of that and you look back and you're like, I did all of that for an illusion. Because no one really gives a shit as much as you did. Is that something you've... I mean, have you felt that yet with your family? That you care way more... You are way more hostile in your head?
You know what? I don't know. Because still on a daily basis, they tell me how much I need to lose weight and what I should be eating. But I've learned to... I've taught myself to not listen to it.
Are they as hostile? You know what I mean when I say that? Doesn't mean they don't...
Are they
They doesn't mean... I didn't say that they didn't want you to lose weight. They're just not as violent about it.
Oh, yeah. It was... You're right. Probably, yes, you're right about that. I was more hostile about it.
Yeah. So your hostility, like you can handle them saying, well, you should maybe think about, we're going to encourage you just because we want you to be healthy. You can be like, oh, that's so sweet. You love me. Thanks.
Yeah.
Because they don't know how damaging that is.
No, they don't.
If they did, they wouldn't do it. Like,
Right.
Even if they were malignant narcissists, they have no flipping clue how damaging they are.
Right.
They've rationalized it. You deserve it.
Yes.
It'll make you better. Yes. So they don't really understand the damage. No. So you can just go, well, they're special needs. Accept their criticism as love, because that's really what it is in a really backwards way, but and you just don't let it stick. It just goes, none of it matters. I'm not going to do anything they say. Because I'm in charge of my life, and I'm going to do it for me, not for anybody else. And they'll have to love me with my fat. and I'm not going to talk about it anymore. They can talk about it. They can
Exactly.
bring it up, but it's not influencing me. And there is such an incredible degree of freedom that comes from that, right? They can say anything to you.
Oh my gosh, yes.
They could tell you your
Yeah.
butt's so big, your butt's eating, the couch, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And you'd be like, fun. It just doesn't matter. Because
Right.
you're aware, you're very clearly aware that you are not willing to suffer for any human being, for any type of reward. No reward. What reward is worth going back into that suffering? Is there any reward worth
Nothing.
that? I would agree.
No. Nothing.
I agree. It's like, no, that's like suicide. It's like saying I'm willing to kill my life for someone else because you're living in a lifeless environment. Right? When everything, your brain is hijacked by food, how not to eat, how you should eat, what you can and cannot eat. There's no room for life. That's like not living. You see that now too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's incredible. Could you have even expected this result?
No, not at all.
You watched my, how long do you watch my videos? Not for super long. I mean, when you came to me, you were kind of in the mode of Weight Loss Apocalypse 1, which is I'm going to get on the protocol and Rob and I are going to work on emotional eating.
Yes. Yep.
And I'm going to lose weight at the same time and it's going to be amazing.
Yes. Right, exactly. Exactly what I thought was going to happen.
And I'm going to be thin and it's going to be easy and my parents are going to be so proud of me and people are going to love me. And I won't be overeating, so I won't have the problems. Like, it's going to be, like, so good. Yeah, no. Yeah. Doesn't work that way.
Nope.
It only works that way when you don't care about the thinness. And you also don't care about the fatness. It goes both directions. You have to not care about thinness, fatness, and anything in between. You have to be, like, bodies free to be what it's going to be as if I'm blind. I am blind to this body. It is what it is. And that ultimately frees up those issues with food. So, the protocol. Again, we're not going to rush into this. Not good to rush into it. That's not what our goal is here. So, have you thought about timing and what you want to do? And the other thing I had been talking to you about is not rushing into it, giving yourself time and space in this freedom. Like having that experience for your birthday, what an incredible part of your recovery. Why rush into the protocol when you need to continue to live in that reality right now?
Right. I agree with that completely.
Yeah. It's so important for you to get used to this and to lose and to, relax your shoulders in environments that before would have been just traumatizing around food. So you have your whole lifetime. You've spent quite a bit of time in misery and suffering in a tiny little cage, and the protocol to some degree is a tiny little cage. And we've got to get you to a place, and you may choose to never do it. I mean, where are you at in that? Are you even going to do it? Yeah.
Honestly, last time we talked, I said, let me get through my birthday and then we'll talk about it. And I feel like going through my birthday, how I went through it so well. I was like, you know what? I think I said to myself, you're getting closer to being able to do the protocol. Because I felt that I'm getting rid of the body image and the self-image. And I feel like I'm getting it now. I'm getting it.
Yeah, and that relaxation with food there's no strain or stress around it. And you can feel the difference. Like the difference between it becomes even more clear to where if we put you on something like the protocol, you have a very clear awareness of the freedom. And that keeps you from feeling a martyr or victim because of the protocol, right? I have a client right now that's on the protocol. We've done quite a bit of work. She jumped into it. Come to find out, she was like, I'm getting excited about the thinness. She's relapsing. And we're working through it. To me, that's an opportunity for us to continue to look at things differently. Like it's making her very aware of her victim positionality. poor
I
me.
see. Right.
She's like, I'm a
Right.
little brat. I'm like, yeah. Yeah. I didn't say
Yeah.
that, but she did.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
like, that's emotional
Right.
immaturity. And you've got to be able to look at your first world luxuries and not feel
Mhm.
victimized by them.
Mhm.
Anyways, and to look at the big picture. So
Mhm.
with that, it's like the relapse part of it can be really hard for people. Like with, for example, imagine relapsing right now, how that would feel for your,
Right.
it can be
Right.
hard for someone who has been so challenged and down in the dumps to come out of it and feel
Mhm.
so free and
Mhm.
liberated to then do
Mhm.
something that puts you right back into it. It's like,
Right.
and then it's hard to come back out, especially if you attach to the thinness, the
Mhm.
weight loss. What'll happen is you'll come out of that round, and how would you have felt on your birthday?
Right.
Imagine
Right.
if you and
Exactly.
I had started at the new year, if I just did it the way you wanted us to, which I would have. I encouraged
Mhm.
you to do it differently and you were willing. But
Mhm.
imagine what would be going on right now at your birthday if you were coming off the protocol, right?
Right. Right. Exactly.
You would have felt
Yeah.
freaking scared and you would have
Mhm.
been stuck in that crazy state of mind that creates the impulsivity and you would have felt like nothing's improved. So
Mhm.
this is what I've learned over the last 5 years is that the protocol is a miraculous experience for people who
Mhm.
physically have the damage done from
Mhm.
binging and purging and binging and binging and dieting, binging for decades. We're talking
Mhm.
people who have chronic problems from that obsessive compulsive issues with food, right? Because it can affect your body negatively.
Right. Yeah.
It's an amazing healing process for them if their brain has healed first.
Mhm.
The idea that you can heal your brain on the protocol, mm, no. I still believe that the protocol can be an incredible tool. And there is some healing that will go on for you and your perceptions while you're on the protocol because some of the issues with food need to be fixed. That'll happen under
Mhm.
deprivation. Right now, we're doing the freedom side of it, right?
Right. Right.
But
Mhm. Right.
you can't do it if you still have the magic and fantasy of body image. If you still rely on
Mhm.
that, if you still want it, you're
Mhm.
going to absolutely relapse, and the protocol can make it worse.
Mhm. Okay. Okay.
So, what I've changed in the method is people do this work first, and can you see why now?
Yes.
Then, once you are in a place, and some people just don't ever do the protocol, which to me is no big deal. The body, if you get rid of the cause, the body will, over years of freedom from the cause, fix itself.
Mhm.
I truly
Mhm.
believe it. Whereas the protocol puts it under a strain, so
Mhm.
it can actually really change the metabolic response of the body in a way. But if you don't fix your brain, you're going to go back to that way of being right after the protocol, and your whole body's going to go back, if not worse, to the state it was metabolically before. So physically,
Yeah.
it's actually a harm if you don't get your emotional and
Okay.
psychological issues resolved.
Mhm. Okay.
Anyways,
Okay.
so no rush.
Okay.
Get out there,
Okay.
go on dates,
Yeah.
get
Okay.
go meet friends for coffee, go put yourself in an environment where you're ordering anything off the menu. Um,
Okay. Mhm.
and again, same exact environment. It's like it's not your birthday, but if you want pizza, you can have pizza. If you want to have sushi, you can have sushi. If you want to have tacos, you can have tacos. If you want to have the soup
Right.
and salad, you can have the soup and salad. It doesn't matter.
Mhm. Right.
And live in that for
Exactly.
enough time that if you were
Okay.
to surrender it to
Mhm.
an extreme surrendering, we're talking omitting everything above and beyond the
Mhm.
protocol, which is really limited. And it takes
Mhm.
focus. And you've got to be willing also, not just to surrender your options of eating, you have to be willing to put work into it because the protocol does take preparation. You can't just when you're hungry go, oh, what can we eat? You have to have
Exactly.
that selection of, so it does take work. Not It doesn't just take sacrifice. It takes sacrifice and effort,
Mhm. Okay.
right? And the question is, relative to this freedom, look, can you make that sacrifice, which is extreme, and put in the effort which isn't that much because it's such a small amount, but you do have to be prepared. Can you do that without feeling, the difference between your freedom and non-effort and the sacrifice and the effort, the difference between those two? Can you experience that without feeling victimized? Poor me, I'm being punished, and I'm entitled to a reward. It's that mentality of it's about me, and I'm the one doing the work, and I'm sacrificing. For me, narcissism. I deserve a reward, right?
Right.
Where you're going to go, well, I need to see the scale loss because I want the magic. I want the magic of thinness. So I want the magic. I deserve the magic, right? That's where people start to obsess over the scale. Or I deserve to cheat. I deserve to have a little bit of cream in my coffee. I deserve to have some olive oil on my fish. I deserve, where we start to fudge on that protocol, thinking I've got to do it in a way that I feel is acceptable. This is really the surrendering of the narcissism too. To be like, no, I don't deserve shit. This protocol isn't about me. It's really about the body, the damages I've done to my partner, and I'm going to give this to my partner, and I don't deserve anything in reward. I'm willfully surrendering. I'm willfully gifting this protocol with no need for reward. I don't need credit. I don't need to be noticed. That it really takes that type of humility to go through it.
Okay.
The clients that I've had that have been there, that whole complete recovery, we're talking recovery from the narcissism, recovery from the codependency, the recovery from the entitlement and victim positionality, martyr position, the recovery from the fantasy of thinness and health righteousness. They've recovered from all of it. When they go into this protocol, it's more like a meditative fasting experience. It's actually like getting therapy for the body, for the marriage between the soul and the body. Simplifying it, cleaning it up.
Right.
And to them, it's like fasting. It's like something they want to do versus I'm going to fast because church tells me to and I have to do it for God to love me. That's not what that is. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And they don't care about the losses, and they don't expect the body to maintain its fat loss. Again, they stay detached from expectations around what the protocol is going to do for them. None of their business. So they tend to not have any issues with relapse. They tend to have no issues with victimization. Their transition into reality is exciting, but it's not fearful because they're okay with waking. They expect it to some degree. And so there's no sabotage. There's no impulsivity. They don't feel I earned this food. And they transition out in the time expected from the protocol, and they go back into reality. And reality is to them the same as it will be for the rest of their life, which is where you're at right now. So the goal is that you have enough experience where you're at right now that you are very clear that this is the way you're going to live when this is over. That no matter what, you're not going to negotiate around this freedom with food. It's not negotiable.
No.
Whereas before, it was always negotiable relative to how thin or fat you were getting.
Right. Exactly.
So the thinness was non-negotiable. The food was. Well, we're going to flip it around.
Yeah.
The body image is negotiable. It can go up or down wherever it wants to go. Your freedom with food, not going to get touched permanently. So it doesn't matter if you lose how much you lose. It doesn't matter because you might regain the weight and you're not going to do anything about it because no matter what, you're going back into this freedom with food without negotiation. So you might as well give up your control around the body, right? What's the point of body checking? What's the point of weighing yourself every day then? What's the point? There is none. Because if the protocol works, if the protocol does heal the body, it's going to show you how it healed. There's no forcing what you think it should do, or what Dr. Simeons wrote in Pounds and Inches. Have you read that yet?
Pounds and Inches?
Mm-hmm.
I read it a long time ago. I have to go back and reread it again, but yeah.
So my point around that is that he talks about losing a pound a day, and that it's to be expected if you follow the protocol. And what most people currently don't realize is that he worked with people that they believed were diseased in the brain. We're talking morbidly obese, and most people don't fall in that category who are doing the protocol right now. I had a woman who had 10 pounds. 10 pounds. She contacted me, did a consult with me, had been working with a naturopath who put her on the protocol as an anorexic needing to lose 10 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
It's just crazy.
That is crazy.
Not thinking like, they're just not, yes, just listening to this anorexic say, I feel so much better when I'm 10 pounds less. Like my knees don't hurt, my hips don't hurt, and I just physically can feel like I don't feel as good with this extra 10 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
Right? Yeah. Tell me this, in your state before we started working, you would have been like, yeah, I totally get that. You should do the protocol.
Right. That is so true. Oh,
I know, because people who are sucked into the thin supremacy religion, they just think everybody should be thinner. It doesn't matter how thin you are. You feel physically like there's something wrong. Maybe you have hormonal problems that the protocol can fix with your 10 pounds of extra weight that you don't really have. It's just so you have to really have your shit together when it comes to the protocol. Yeah. Because you're going to go to some expert out there who's got problems themselves, and they'll never question your desire to be thinner. Because doesn't everybody want to be thinner? Because it's just so much better.
I hope
it's magical. It's like right? Life is so much magical. It's like the beach is more magical for thin people. Everything's more magical. It's that weird fucking fantasy that doesn't exist. Sad, isn't it? That's the saddest part when you were grieving it. That's the saddest part, is the fantasy is gone. And that fantasy's full of narcotic response. I mean, you fantasize about the thinness and what it's going to bring you, and my God, it's addictive.
Yeah, right.
And to realize that addiction, that pleasure in just thinking about being thinner isn't going to happen anymore. So you're mourning an illusion, people. Mourning an illusion. And that but it feels real. So the willingness to let go of something you believe is real, that willingness to surrender it, that right there is how you heal. The will, just the surrendering. I'm done. I can't do it anymore. I'm willing to surrender that drug, that narcotic of thinness, of thinner than I am, the hope of what it's going to bring me, the hope of getting married because I'm not thin enough and no man will like me. I mean, there's a lot that's wrapped up in those fantasies for some people, right? The hope that it'll fix my marriage with my husband who thinks I need to lose weight for him to stop cheating on me type of bullshit. I mean, there's so much that goes into it. The hope that, even for some people, that when I lose the weight, all my health will get better. That surrendering of that emotional part of it is not easy. But once you do it and you go into existing in your current body, it's so much easier. It is so much more relaxed. All of a sudden your life feels great, and you look back and you're like, that was a fantasy. I suffered that long for an illusion,
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's the hardest thing to accept. That was the hardest thing for me to accept.
Me too. I was willing to commit suicide over it.
Yeah.
So many people that I work with struggle letting it go. And that's understandable, right? You can understand that. Yeah. So it really comes down to how much you've been suffering too. Like, how bad is your suffering? Because can you see how if someone hasn't suffered that much, that they're not necessarily going to be ready to let it go?
Right.
because they still think the magic exists, that the suffering is worth
Right.
the magic. Like, I'm willing to keep on suffering if that magic is still amazing. If it's as amazing as I perceive it to be, I'm going to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather, I just can't be fatter. I can't do it. It's not possible. It's too painful. That's too painful. The suffering isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Makes complete sense. Complete sense.
All right, I'm going to stop recording this. This is good enough.